In Van Halen, the classic Van Halen, everything that you sing, I bring. I wrote all the words, all the melodies, every note of the harmonies and such. And classic Van Halen, easily 30% of it is ZZ Top, okay, note push, you know what range. 38 Special, Hang On Loosely, baby. Marshall Tucker, Heard It in Love Song. Leonard Skinner, give me 3 steps, girl. I'm not sure what that means to this day, but I want them. And all of that went into our songwriting at the same time. We were big outdoor guys.
Did David Lee Roth just claim he created every Van Halen melody, leaving Eddie Van Halen out of the spotlight? What if the biggest rock legend story you believed isn't the full truth? When David Lee Roth says something bold, people don't. Just hear it, they react. And this time the claim hits straight at the heart of rock history. I wrote every Van Halen melody. It's the kind of statement that instantly sparks debate, because Van Halen wasn't just any band. It was a collision of larger-than-life personalities, especially between Roth and guitar legend Eddie Van Halen. But Roth's confidence has always been part of his identity. He doesn't just tell stories, he performs them, reshapes them, and sometimes rewrites them entirely. So when he makes a claim like this, it's not just about credit, it's about legacy, ego, and the blurred line between memory and myth. From the very beginning, Van Halen wasn't built like a typical band. It wasn't a clean division of roles where one person handled lyrics and another handled music. Instead, it was chaotic, explosive, and deeply collaborative, at least on the surface. Eddie's guitar work was undeniably revolutionary, filled with tapping techniques and sonic innovations that changed rock forever. But Roth brought something equally powerful, a sense of spectacle, rhythm, and phrasing that turned those guitar riffs into unforgettable songs. Melody in rock music isn't just about instruments, it's about how vocals ride the music, how lyrics hit the beat, how energy flows through every second of a track. And Roth argues that this is where his influence was absolute. Think about the band's biggest hits. Those songs weren't just guitar showcases, they were performances, driven by Roth's unique style, his swagger, his almost theatrical delivery. He didn't just sing over the music, he shaped how it was experienced. In interviews over the years, Roth has hinted that many of the melodies fans associate with Van Halen songs actually came from his instincts, his improvisations, his ability to feel where a song needed to go. To him, melody isn't something written on paper, it's something lived in the moment. That perspective makes his claim less about technical authorship and more about creative ownership. But of course, this is where things get complicated. Eddie Van Halen wasn't just a guitarist. He was a composer in his own right, crafting riffs and musical ideas that formed the backbone of the band's sound. Fans and critics alike have long credited him as the primary musical force behind Van Halen's success. So when Roth says he wrote every melody, it challenges a narrative that's been accepted for decades. Is he exaggerating? Is he redefining what melody means? Or is he revealing something that's been overlooked all along? The truth likely sits somewhere in the middle, tangled in years of creative tension and personal rivalry. Roth and Eddie had a relationship that was as volatile as it was productive. They pushed each other, challenged each other, and ultimately clashed in ways that led to Roth's departure from the band. But during their time together, that tension created magic. Songs came to life in a way that felt bigger than anyone, person, even if each member believed they were the driving force. Roth's claim might be his way of reclaiming a piece of that magic, of reminding the world that Van Halen wasn't just about guitar heroics. It was about the frontman who turned those sounds into an experience. And let's be honest, Roth has always understood the power of narrative. He knows how to keep people talking, how to stir curiosity, how to make a statement that refuses to be ignored. Whether you agree with him or not, you're now thinking about those songs differently, questioning who contributed what, replaying them in your mind with a new perspective. That's part of his genius. He doesn't just perform music, he performs history. And in doing so, he ensures that his version of the story stays alive. What makes this claim even more fascinating is how it forces us to rethink what we value in music. For years, the spotlight in Van Halen has often leaned toward Eddie's technical brilliance, his ability to do things on a guitar that seemed almost impossible. But melody, the thing people actually remember, the part they hum, the hook that sticks in their heads, that's a different kind of power. Roth is essentially saying that while Eddie created the framework, he gave it life, direction, and identity. It's a bold reframing, one that shifts the focus from instrumentation to interpretation. And in a way, it highlights something deeper about how music works. A song isn't just the sum of its parts, it's the result of how those parts interact. Roth's voice, his timing, his personality, they didn't just sit on top of the music, they became inseparable from it. Remove that element, and the songs feel different, even if the notes remain the same. That's the argument Roth seems to be making, whether directly or indirectly. He's not denying Eddie's genius, he's asserting his own. Of course, fans are divided. Some see Roth's statement as classic bravado, another example of his larger-than-life persona pushing boundaries. Others believe there's truth behind the claim, that his contributions have been underestimated for years. And then, there are those who see it as part of a long-standing rivalry, a reflection of unresolved tensions that never fully disappeared. But regardless of where you stand, the conversation itself proves something important. Van Halen's music still matters. It still sparks emotion, debate, and passion decades later. That's the mark of something truly iconic. And maybe that's the real takeaway here. Whether Roth wrote every melody or not, he was undeniably a crucial part of what made Van Halen special. His energy, his creativity, his ability to turn music into a spectacle, those things can't be measured in songwriting credits alone. They exist in the way people remember the songs, the way they feel when they hear them, the way they continue to resonate across generations. Roth's claim might be controversial, but it also shines a light on the complexity of collaboration, the way art is shaped by multiple voices, even when those voices don't always agree. In the end, maybe the question isn't who wrote every melody, but how those melodies came together to create something unforgettable. And if Roth's words get people to revisit that music, to listen more closely, to appreciate the layers within it, then perhaps he's achieved exactly what he intended. Because David Lee Roth has never just been about the past. He's about keeping the story alive no matter how many times it gets retold.